Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending this evening's presentation. The end of bypass is in sight. This webinar will be conducted by Dr. Gary Gordon. Please welcome Dr. Gary Gordon.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be back with all of you again, as it is my intention to empower more and more people to take personal responsibility for your own health. I have to teach you tonight that most of what you think you know about how not to die of a heart attack is going to turn out to be very misleading at the least. Now, since I'm going to get very specific, you need to know that only when you do a consultation with me that I record on the phone can you consider that to be your personal advice. Otherwise, this has to be generic. But try to understand. Nobody needs bypass. Well, maybe 1 in 100. I have canceled bypass on all of my patients routinely for over 35 years now, and we've just gotten better and better at it. So I consider bypass to be a relic of the past. And how do you finally get a country to stop making horses and buggies and move on to making cars? In other words, how can you get a cardiologist to give up that wonderful income he expects to receive from giving you yesterday's treatment? So if I'm going to make you really able to take personal responsibility, we have to start out with your iPhone. And one of the leading cardiologists in the country, Eric Topol, MD, wants you to know that with apps that you can put on an iPhone or a cell phone that is a smartphone, you can pretty well start to fire your cardiologist, because look at your iPhone instantly today already, without spending any money, is an electrocardiogram. And you can forward that to a doctor and pay him the money to read it. You don't have to wait in line at the emergency room when all you had was an upset stomach. But where's it all going? These applications are going to empower you to find out just how out of shape you really are, because to be in shape today means that you want to have a low total body fat. That doesn't mean eating fat is bad. In fact, the contrary. But you have to use your body enough to burn the fat up, and then you have a win-win. In other words, fats are not the enemy. Today, the carbohydrates are what's killing us. And as you go forward, try to understand that this device, remember, all my webinars will play again on GordonResearch.com. And I've got some pretty exciting stuff tonight, but this is beyond anything you've heard of. This is a device that is small, basically, has a tiny chip that you would put in a dog so you don't lose the dog. But this chip is going to replace an inhaler. Right now we have inhalers that will tell you whether or not you have diabetes or lung cancer or how fast you're dying due to lipid peroxidation. But we can actually put it on a wrist and also give you those same answers. But now, for people that don't want to bother, we're going to put this tiny little thing right here. This is only approximately 14 millimeters. That's 1.4 centimeters. This is so small that you wouldn't know it's on you, but it will wind up alerting you, and if you choose, your doctor or your health team, if your heart's under stress or your body is under stress, if you're becoming elevated with free radicals that are dangerous, or your heart's starting to show symptoms of skipping beats. So this is so powerful that it's going to change how long everybody lives and probably add 30 years to your life. Now, wait a minute. How could anything add 30 years? Well, I've explained in previous webinars that if you would do the test I recommend today, called caprofile.net, none of you would have to die of cancer if you were doing the test before your doctor told you that you have far advanced cancer. In other words, early warning accurate tests will keep you alive. So this chip is going to move you into an area of self-care. Well, how's that going to happen? Well, because Dr. Gordon and others are at this website to try to give you inside information about diet, exercise, how to control stress. And this is a really great team of caring folks that want to not get rich on you. They want to share their insight to empower you to, when necessary, know when you need a second opinion. Please understand, I've only practiced medicine now for 56 years. I've been doing chelation for over 40 years. So obviously, if you call me about any heart program that anybody's treating you for, I will wind up giving you a different opinion because I don't agree with anyone, since if they're not familiar with metabolic cardiology, which means giving you things like carnitine and coenzyme Q and magnesium and changing your diet, if they're not familiar with that, or how to get the lead out of your heart and the mercury, I have nothing in common to talk to any of the cardiologists unless they are truly gifted. What do I mean by a gifted cardiologist? One who's so high up. Like, frankly, you know, Dr. Oz is a cardiovascular surgeon, and he's high enough up that he actually talks about things that no one else wants to. And we have Dr. Michael Rosen at the Cleveland Clinic, who with Dr. Oz and myself fully agrees that you can have disabling, advanced, serious blocked coronary arteries that every institution in the United States would absolutely tell you, first of all, go to the operating room and have a stent at least, and if not a stent, a bypass. And yet these three cardiologists, Michael Rosen, Cleveland Clinic, he wrote all the books about real medicine, agree with me that just because you have blocked arteries doesn't mean surgery is even indicated. It's not indicated. And in fact, if your heart's skipping beats, the ablation is not what you need. You need to find out, why was your heart so unhappy? And so a lot of times it will be a combination of the heart having too many toxic metals. And Dr. Roy Helbron is a cardiologist. He was part of the trial to assess chelation therapy that my efforts, I was fighting to save chelation for you for 40 years of my life. And I did get the NIH and the FDA in a box, so they wound up hoping to prove that chelation was quackery, but they put together $31 million to do a decent study, and it turned out, much to their chagrin, that the study, called TACT, Trial to Assess Chelation Therapy, proved that I win and they lose. I'm better than their statins, and I don't need any of their nonsense. In fact, most patients need no blood pressure medicine if you choose to become knowledgeable and see what the non-drug approach is. Like Dr. Mark Houston has written books, and he's head of hypertension research at Vanderbilt University School of Medicine, and he puts thousands of slides together and lectures everywhere to try to wake doctors up that having elevated cholesterol does not mean you need a statin, and skipping beats does not mean that you need an ablation, and having elevated blood pressure never means that you need a blood pressure drug, except for an emergency. When we first find you, when you haven't been even checking your own body at all, which is why I love the first slides I showed you, your iPhone within a year or two will replace most of the tests that we now do in a laboratory, and they'll do it on urine and saliva, and you won't even have to have blood drawn. And you will know whether or not you are becoming diabetic or have cancer, or if you really need help with inflammation that leads to the blood getting thick and sticky. So we really die of blood clots. So please understand, if you take the time to search Roy Helbron on the internet under Google, you will see that he and his wife, who's also a board-certified internist, who are practicing now in Santa Fe, New Mexico, with a beautiful retreat, that any of you, I would advise, if you think you need surgery, cancel it, call them, and go and spend 3 weeks and get a rejuvenating experience. They have a spa-like inpatient facility that you can stay and have all the magic that I talk about, whether it's intravenous magnesium or chelation or diet change or structured exercise or colonics or ozone, whatever I teach. This man and wife team offer it. So you need to know that I'm coming from the personal experience. The gene the men in my family have, as my father died when he appeared to be in the best of health, laughing, having a meeting with some friends, and falls to the floor and he's dead. And my brother, who was a physician, who actually at first thought that chelation was nonsense and that his brother, me, was crazy to do chelation, until he wound up having a close friend that was in deep trouble, and his close friend came to me and got completely well, which shocked the Dr. Ross Gordon enough that he wound up actually studying it, learning it, in treating patients, and frankly became a strong voice working with the FDA to make the eventual $31 million trial to assess chelation therapy occur. So why am I so interested? Well, look at what I was born with. I was born with high fevers. I was born with everything from no stomach acid, so I could not absorb magnesium, and with my high fevers and not absorbing the necessary minerals, my teeth rotted out, so at one point they had filled every tooth with mercury, and if you have a mouthful of mercury, my dear friend, you will have heart problems. And these doctors who do not care to learn the facts will sell you some wonderful pacemaker that you sure do not want or need, because once you have installed a pacemaker, you've made it very difficult for me to regenerate and give you a new heart, which I do. Repeat. In my work, we can show you patient after patient scheduled for heart transplant that doesn't need the heart transplant when you do what I teach, which is not that much different, just a few more tricks like the pulsed electromagnetic field and the low-level laser. But if you go to Dr. Stephen Sinatra, the Sinatra Heart Solution Program, in his Reversing Heart Disease book, he will tell you, as I'm telling you, in a published book, and he's trained at Yale. He's a board-certified cardiologist, and they can't lock he or I up as insane because we're telling you the facts. You can choose not to believe, and that's your choice. My only job is to let you know that whatever you think you know about health might be 180 degrees wrong. In other words, Dr. Sinatra's newest book, which you'll see, is about the cholesterol myth. So since I had all those health problems, look at these problems I've been born with. It sets the stage for me to have disabling angina at 29, and with my bad genes, my brother dead, sudden heart attack, brother dead. I was, at age 29, stricken to the floor with massive heart failure. And in medical school, I couldn't go up a flight of steps without going into heart failure. So I can tell you I know heart disease. And at age 79, I ride my bike up and down nice hills. And I'm not a Navy SEAL, but I have a full, high level of quality life. So whether it's dancing or going for a walk and seeing the world, I'm on airplanes. Tomorrow, I'm off to teach first in Long Beach and then get on a plane to teach the next day in Puerto Rico. I travel the world because I want to share the message that I've found things that on this sheet of paper. Whatever you think you know about vitamin C, believe me, you do not know enough. We have a vitamin C that works by mouth that you can test your own urine, and I get rid of all the cheap vitamin C they sell in the stores, because when you use the test, which costs you 20 cents for a strip of paper, and if you can't afford 20 cents, call Longevity Plus at 1-800-580-PLUS, and they'll send you a couple of the strips so you can see what I'm talking about. Only with high levels of C in your urine at all times are you protecting your arteries against arteriosclerosis so that you can do what I now teach. I teach that at age 60, you are at the halfway point. In other words, that's middle age. So if I'm 79, I have to really expect to be alive at 99, looking and feeling not much different than I feel today. But I can't do that without all the tricks in my protocol. Go to the website, GordonResearch.com, put in the word protocol, you'll see it, and then say Dr. Gordon's personal protocol, and you can see everything I take. But everything I take is listed right here. I'm on chelated minerals because you can never get enough magnesium. If your heart's unhappy, start with magnesium. If you can't do anything else, see one of our doctors at acam.org or acim, connect.com. You will find doctors that I work with around the world, or ifm.org, Institute for Functional Medicine. I have doctors that you can go to, and they will put magnesium into your vein, called a Meyer cocktail, and your heart will start to smile instead of letting these good marketers sell you a stent that nobody needs, period, and a bypass operation that 99% of people never needed. I have yet to see anybody that I asked to go to have a bypass because I'm an expert at this big concept. What is the benefit? What's the risk? If I can give you a better quality of life than they give you with their operation and their drugs, and if they have the risk of killing you on the table, then the only risk you have with me is that you might be the first patient in over 20 years to actually die of a heart attack or stroke while taking my oral chelation. So you might be the first one. So that's the risk. But let's look at this little thing. What is the diet? Well, the diet is covered in Mark Hyman's great book called The Blood Sugar Solution, where he teaches you how vital it is for you to be on the omega-3 oil capsules and the all-lipoic acid and the coenzyme Q and the carnitine. I mean, we can teach you these things so that you don't have to be threatened by a health food store when you walk in, you see all those crazy bottles. What's it all for? Well, it's all because your diet cannot give you the high-octane fuel that can keep you running while you're on a planet that is losing its magnetic power, so that the energy in every human could be higher if you owned your own magnet. Roger Federer has a $5,800 MAS pad, all the top side. If you understand where I'm taking you, we have to get you the right water. We have to restore the magnetic energy the Earth is taking away. The oxygen levels are not what they have been in the past. So we have oxygen bars now in all the big department stores in Tokyo because people get too weak to continue shopping. So we have oxygen bars even in the airport in Las Vegas. But the point is this. Everything that's on this list is stuff that I can do, obviously, a whole 1 hour or 2 hour or 5 hour webinar on. And none of you understand it. You've got to take a probiotic each day because Monsanto, with genetically modified food, has given us all a disturbed intestinal flora that we now call the microbiome, that's making people have needless obesity and needless inflammation, and inflammation leads to heart attacks. So I have to get you on my fiber, my power drink, my maca, my zeolite. I know what I'm doing. And when you see the word cocoon and ASEA has been around in America for some time. It's just water and salt. But they did a process too, so it does in your body exactly what intravenous hydrogen peroxide or ozone will do, which is to, what would ozone or intravenous hydrogen peroxide do? Well, if you have a dirty wound, you pour hydrogen peroxide on it. What happens? It gets rid of the bad guys, cleans it up. So I'm teaching you that we have ways that all of you, if you don't have veins and you don't want to go to one of the doctors, and I really tell you that if money was no object, anyone listening to me tonight, if you went to one of the doctors doing intravenous chelation therapy who belong to ifmed.com, that's the Institute for Integrative Medicine, or you go to ACAM doctors, or you go to any of the doctors doing chelation, ISIM to Connect, any of these groups, if I had you spend money and go and take some chelation intravenously, follow it with a Meyer cocktail, which means magnesium and B complex, because nobody has high enough magnesium when I show you the test. And I then gave you a little bit of ozone in the vein. Why would I give you ozone? Well, because ozone is active oxygen and can do more than oxygen, although you all know if you're really sick, you go to the emergency room and you breathe oxygen. But what if I could put oxygen into the water so you could sip it when you're out trying to jog, or you're playing golf, or trying to beat somebody at tennis? There's a lot of neat stuff happening, and none of it works as good as it does if you bring up the magnetic field that the Earth is taking away. So what test am I talking about? Well, this is the name of the test, EXA-TSD. And what will it tell you? It is non-invasive. It's not yet covered by insurance. Of course, anything that's good isn't covered by insurance. But it uses the bottom of your tongue with the tongue depressor. It just takes a few cells from the bottom of your tongue. And instantly, I can guarantee you, the sicker you are, the more serious the imbalance between calcium and magnesium will be in your body. So if you think that going to the health food store and buying magnesium is a good thing to do, I have Dr. Tom Levy's new book, and he calls Calcium Death. Why would a cardiologist write a book? And he happens to be board certified cardiology and an attorney. Why would he take on the calcium industry? Because if you don't have enough magnesium, calcium will kill you, because it disturbs the ability of the heart to beat. So I can assure you that I've never found anyone who has adequate levels of magnesium, and the sicker you are, the worse the test is. But what's this thing here? Steve Sinatra calling it the great cholesterol myth. A board-certified cardiologist from the graduating in Yale telling you, folks, you're being lied to? That's what I'm teaching you. So please understand that anything you thought you knew about heart disease is basically going to prove to be wrong. For example, the higher your cholesterol, the longer people live. The more fat you eat, proven, the longer you live. Why? Well, what are you going to eat? You're going to eat protein, fat, or carbohydrate. What have they done to us? They've told us, oh, the answer is grains. Well, now, because of genetically modified, I'm afraid to eat wheat, and most of us are getting the same opinion. That's why everybody's trying to run away from gluten. But it's not just the gluten, my dear friends. It's the foods they give us. Because we have become sensitive to the foods we eat, and it can be a carrot, it can be an orange. How come a good food can make you sick? Because your body has to first process it in the tube we call your intestine before it brings it into the body tissues to repair you. And if you don't take your probiotic and take your fiber each day and take my power drink, you don't have a chance of adequately processing even a healthy food. And so if you eat a decent piece of range-fed beef, which is very healthy for you, but if you have a leaky gut because you've been eating so much soy, so much wheat, so much corn that Monsanto has made it unsafe to eat any of those foods by building a pesticide into the food. So now we're all stuck with an amazing new idea. Cholesterol is not the problem, folks. Everything you've been told is wrong, and statins are not safe. They're the worst thing you could be doing. They are actually taking people and wrecking their memory, wrecking their sex drive, giving them diabetes, increasing the likelihood of cancer. Wait, you mean statins that they want everybody in America taking are killing us? Yes, that's a good way to put it. Simple. That saves you time. So statins have been oversold, and yes, they might be useful for people with low HDL and cholesterol, so that if you're a patient that isn't going to learn anything from my talk tonight, is not going to start to at least walk the dog around the block, and is going to continue to live at McDonald's, then please do not listen to my talk tonight. Please report to a cardiologist and get on your aspirin, take your Coumadin, your Plavix, get immediately on your statins, because I cannot take any responsibility, because everything I teach is that I have no magic bullets. Magnesium is close to a magic bullet. And so is getting the lead out of you with chelation and the mercury out with zeolite. But I don't have any magic bullets. If you don't do my whole thing, it's like you finding that you own the tire company and you think by putting new tires on your car every 1,000 miles you're going to get 1,000,000 miles out of it. Forget it. You know that to have a car become a classic car, you need to do everything from the battery to the radiator to the windshield wiper to the taillight. So you think you're any different than a car? So yeah, I'm good at keeping people alive, and I expect if you choose to listen to a talk I gave this weekend at a conference, which was nicely attended, and I had 3 hours to cover it, I explained to you why I know without any doubt, because of the breakthrough last week on stem cell research, that's going to bring the price down and make it affordable to everybody. You may want to start listening to me now, because even if you don't listen to me, you're going to live over 80, over 90. You're probably going to live to 100. And you know it's not much fun if you're in an old folks home because you've lost your memory, and I have nobody ever lose their memory. And I remember, I've never lost a patient to prostate cancer. We have proof that we can prevent cancer in you by just doing an annual cancer test. But now we're talking heart disease, and heart disease is so easy. We have a test that replaces the angiogram, and you don't need to go on that treadmill that scares you because you think you're going to have a heart attack from running on the stupid treadmill. All you need to do is go to a website called premierheart.com and find doctors like we have Ron Peters in Scottsdale, MD, who for $300 has the $35,000 special computer that does an electrocardiogram in 10 minutes, but he knows in another 10 minutes whether you're going to live or die from heart disease. So if he says, hey, your heart's not the problem, you can hang your hat on it, and if you're having lots of symptoms, you'll know that it's chest pain unrelated to heart, and you won't waste your time letting some big hospital convince you need bypass, which they tell everybody you got here just in time. It is the only message they know, because they've got to sell that dangerous operation which is on its way out. They are like the horse and buggy, and they're resisting the fact that the Ford is making those cars. So what's my big complaint? My complaint is they're killing people with these drugs. And how many people are dying? Well, they admit over 100,000 deaths are needless because your doctor put you on 4 and 5 drugs, none of which you need. I am an expert at taking you off of 95% of all the drugs they tell you need. But of course I need an informed, educated patient that chooses to practice self-care and learn what it does when you walk your body around the block and what it does when you go and buy the right supplements that are activated and can do what you can do. So now that the AMA admits that the drugs they give you are the 4th leading cause of death, maybe some of you want to think about what is mom and what's dad taking, because they have all the older people taking 4 and 5 needless, unsafe drugs, and blood thinners are at the top of the thing. We have natural blood thinners. Omega-3 is a natural blood thinner. Garlic's a natural blood thinner. I put it all in a product called BCI, where we spent $10 million in the 1960s showing that we could eliminate all fatal blood clots, both strokes and heart attacks, naturally. So cholesterol-lowering drugs are causing diabetes. They're damaging your muscles. They're damaging all of the vascular function in your body, including kidney function. So coenzyme Q does help protect you, but the plaque that is killing people is called vulnerable plaque. And we know exactly what happened when somebody dies today of a heart attack. And it has nothing whatsoever to do with what their cholesterol level was. Equal number of heart attacks in people with normal as are with elevated. So it's all complete marketing to sell you something that's doing you damage. So if we look at statins, we'll understand that my first job is to teach you that cholesterol was never the problem, which is why I showed you the new book by Dr. Sinatra, proving the higher your cholesterol, the longer you're going to live. But do I want you to have calcified arteries? No. I want you to have hard bones when you're 90 and soft arteries. That's my life's work. As an expert at anti-aging, if you want to be free of a broken hip when you're 90, you need to be on my program now, and you'll be on it the rest of your life. And it starts with binding cellular impurities, BCI, which will take the lead out of your bones so the bone can continue to remodel. And we have to have you on my herbal remedy from Thailand, which causes women going through menopause not to develop osteoporosis, which men always got 10 years later anyhow. So at age 79, of course, I had osteoporosis until I chose to learn how to use the PEMF and the natural hormone products without prescription that I have all my patients take. I have nothing against bioidentical hormones. You find competent people and use them, but a lot of people can't afford all that, so I've got to have reasonable alternatives like my herbal remedy from Thailand, HRT. So we think the statins are really giving people more need for Viagra. And so we're pretty against the statins, to put it mildly. Now they start to tell men, gee, don't take the testosterone. Well, you need testosterone. You are going to live to 90 or 100 years of age. It is clear that we all are going to outlive our retirement plan, no matter what you've saved. So it'd be nice when you're 80 and 90 to be able to still cut the lawn and still have value to yourself and society, which we can deliver that to you. But testosterone is a key step, even for many women. But they tell you, oh my goodness, it's going to make your blood thick and maybe you'll get too many strokes and heart attack. Nobody gets blood thick because you take my 9 pills. That's my calling card wherever I go in life. I tell people, read about BCI. We spent $10 million in the 1960s. That was a lot of money. We published 3 books. Dr. Morrison's Heart Saver Program, Arteriosclerosis Prevention and Reversal, Mucopolysaccharides, and coronary disease. So I can tell you it's easy. You take your testosterone, which I give anybody who talks to me is going to get testosterone, because I can give you an informed consent saying, yeah, you're not going to get a clot, a heart attack, or a stroke, because I don't give you the testosterone alone. I give it to you with the omega-3, the garlic, and the other 9 pills that are my oral chelation that gets the lead out of you daily, because that's the biggest single contributor. Lead and mercury are part of the toxins that are killing all of us. And that's why I have to have everybody on vitamin C, at least a teaspoon twice a day, because when your vitamin C leaves your body, it's carrying bad stuff out. So the whole story about chelation therapy, this is me in a few years ago. This is me in 1976. And so the eyeglasses, the whole thing. But this is the article I wrote, and then 34 years later, this was the first article ever published where somebody went to the library and researched the entire subject. Since then, I have paid a researcher for over 20 years, and I've collected 7,000 papers on EDTA. So I know quite a bit about it. So don't have somebody tell you I don't know what I'm talking about, because I'll be able to show that they are not informed enough to challenge me. And I have everybody on oral detoxification, and that oral detoxification always includes EDTA, a synthetic man-made amino acid that is what we put in the vein that we call intravenous chelation, but I give it orally. So please know that this article, which you can find online, you go to the website for Townsend Newsletter, or you go to my website, GordonResearch.com, because I want people to know that I was sick, and it was chelation that turned me around, so I owed it to me, because EDTA made me feel like Superman. I could do what I could never do in medical school. I could run uphill without going into heart failure. So believe me, we can have you stay healthy. And so Unleaded is the name. If you just search that name, you will find a actual DVD that you can get, and you can download and become expert at why. Dr. Lamas, the director of the $31 million study at the Miami Heart Institute, he presented stunning results, and believe me, they hated us. They put the $31 million out because they thought that nobody would ever again take chelation therapy, and they could keep selling their outdated horse and buggy medicine called bypass and stenting. And we did the study with 130 claimants, 1,700 patients. You cannot attack the data, but it makes it clear that nobody needs their medicine, and so they're not going to talk about it because they all have a retirement program. If they don't operate on a lot of people next week, all the system falls apart because they need that $100,000 per client that they say, oh, you got here just in time. Your arteries all plugged. Oh, my, amazing. Everybody's arteries have plugs at age 21, so they're selling you yesterday's horse and buggy. So what do I know about it? This is a journal of the AMA, and they had to publish the study, and oh, did they hate it when they had to publish the study that showed 39% decrease in risk from the patients who happen to be lucky enough to get the active chelation. So now, guess what? Our government's not entirely stupid. They know how much money they're pumping into the pockets of cardiologists for horse and buggy medicine. So they're actually going to do another study because guess what? The Mayo Clinic looked at this wonderful $31 million study. You can't design a more powerful study. And they said, oh, we don't think it means anything. We're going to keep on selling the stents and the bypass. They don't say, and besides, we really need the money. So this is the 3 textbooks that prove I'm right and they're wrong. This proves that oral chelation can take and make a natural product like garlic and seaweed work in your body as good as the drug that kills people, called Coumadin, the most dangerous drug they give people. Coumadin shortens your lifespan, makes your arteries turn to stone, and I take everybody who calls me off, but I don't take you off without putting you on BCI, and very likely Baluchi if you wind up with a history of having blood clots in your family like I have in my family. So try to understand these 9 pills is a plant-based oil called Primrose, a fish-based oil, 3 multiples that will give you all the calcium, magnesium, zinc, selenium, and 1 phosphatidylserine ginkgo. So when you're 90, you'll remember my phone number, and you'll still be able to see. And the other 3 pills are where we spent the $10 million to have the garlic and the EDTA and the seaweed all in these capsules so that you never throw a blood clot. Even if you have a fight with the IRS and a fight with the FDA the same day and you pig out and eat too much, that's not a good combination. A lot of stress, and then pig out and eat a lot of sweets and have a huge dessert and half a bucket of ice cream. That's a good way to kill people, but I still don't lose people. It's been 20 years and no one's ever called and said, what Dr. Gordon is selling isn't working. We had a dead patient this week, so we're pretty confident that we're on the right thing. And why am I so confident? Because chelation has been documented by Johan Bjorksten at the University of Wisconsin to increase lifespan as much as 50%. Now, wait a minute. You mean a university has actually published a study that EDTA can make animals live 50% longer? Yeah, it's a good idea, folks. When I was very young and I was very sick, I moved very slow. I was born sick. So my mom, making a joke of it, always said, get the lead out. Well, she was telling me more accurately than she knew because of the fillings that the stupid dentist puts in your mouth. They call them silver. It's nothing. Silver is just mercury designed to kill your heart. Then, of course, we eat fish. And the fish, there was nothing wrong with them, but in order to have electric power, we burn coal. And when you burn coal, the air becomes so bad you can't see across the street in China. And so that air is giving you particulates of lead and mercury and cadmium and arsenic. And so believe me, EDTA chelation therapy is documented. 93% reduction in angioplasty and 62% reduction in coronary artery bypass. That was in the dark ages before we knew what we're teaching you today. So today we do much better, but it's all based on Mark Houston. He's head of hypertension research at Vanderbilt University School of Medicine. This name in this article will protect you because your doctor knows nothing about this, and he'll say, I'm dangerous. I'm telling you that you won't need blood. Obviously, I'm not going to take you off your blood pressure, tell you on my program, but their drugs are proven to kill you. Read the side effects. Take 4 or 5 of their drugs, and you will have proof that that will be the direct contributor to why you die. So is it worthwhile to spend your own money? Well, no. The drugs are covered by insurance, so not everybody's going to do what I do. I spend real money. I spend a lot, well over $1,000 a month to take what I have to take, but I have a simple choice. I essentially died of heart failure at age 29, so at age 79, that's 50 years of life. It's kind of worth it to me to know that you can beat the game, but mercury from Earth and the mercury that you eat when you eat the fish is all stressing your heart, and then when your heart is stressed, it doesn't take in the magnesium, and then you need to get a pulse magnet field, which we have pulse magnet field today for as little as $1,300 that a person could do, because not everybody can get the $24,000 access to the PMF. Many of the doctors lease them for about $500 a month, and then they let you use the machine for a session to exercise your heart or your brain, because we turn brain disease around. We bring vision back. Nobody has to go blind with glaucoma or macular degeneration. It's all incompetent medicine. If you're being told that you're going to wind up blind, tell them they are dead wrong, and you know who to talk to. We'll do a recorded phone consultation and make it clear to you. Everything you thought you knew about blood pressure is totally wrong. Mark Houston tried to explain it. We have enzymes that absolutely proven lower the thickness of the blood so that it becomes like wine instead of like ketchup, lowers the level of inflammation that they agree is helping kill you. So yes, I can digest fiber and lower your fibrinogen, so I use these kinds of products. But if I send you to Harvard School of Medicine, guess what they'll tell you? You have CMV, and it is leading to junk on your arteries called vulnerable plaque, and it will cause hypertension, and your doctor never even mentions it. How can Harvard be so? Why is Harvard testing telling you that 96% of people have it, and if you don't have it, you'll have candida or chlamydia or cell wall deficient infections? Everybody has some infection. Well, why do I make a big deal out of it? Well, because I have an answer. Ozone. But you can't all afford to buy ozone at the doctor's office because that's expensive. So some people buy an ozone generator. Go to oxygenhealingtherapies.com, and it'll teach you how people can buy your own ozone generator and ozonate water. But ozonated water only lasts a short time because it's very unstable. So now we've introduced new things called ASEA, ASEA, and we can take athletes and enhance their endurance by a minimum of 12% by changing the water you drink, by having you add water that has the ability to deliver more oxidants to your body, which we've heard recently that the antioxidants are leading to shorter lifespan and more people dying. So let's look at this study. They're pointing out to you that people taking antibiotics, amazingly enough, may die much faster. Well, what do? I teach you how to use natural products like ozone with an ozone generator, or buy the ASEA water, or ASEA doctor. In other words, we have the silver ACS, but look at this frightening thing. Azithromycin was definitely helping kill people. These are not little numbers. So patients had an estimated 245,000 deaths per million people just because of taking antibiotics. So what can we do? Can I turn it around? Well, azithromycin is a useful antibiotic, but you've got to understand that already stupid Monsanto is genetically modified for our food, so there's already a pesticide in all the food you get if you eat any corn or any soy or any wheat that they had their hands on. In 99% of all those foods have been manipulated by Monsanto's handyman, And so the net result is I have to give you natural alternative to infection. So if you have somebody supposed to die tomorrow, they're in the hospital, they say there's nothing can keep them alive, call me, get the silver, we'll get you immediately on the ASEA water. We'll tell you how much vitamin C, how much vitamin A, how much. We don't lose people from infections. This vitamin C right here was designed by me with the help of a really brilliant specialist in formulating unique ways to make vitamin C go inside of your cells without giving you upset stomach. And so this vitamin C is what I live on, and all my patients get Bioenergy C. If you give this to your animals along with zeolite, they won't wind up dying of cancer. And in fact, when you combine the vitamin C and the zeolite and the pulse magnet, my horse jumps 6-foot obstacles and he wins at the whole game plan of this show jumping because he's on these things. So you can learn that vitamin C actually pulls the bad stuff out of your arteries, and you can learn that it goes into the sick mitochondria. What's sick mitochondria? Well, listen to this. In our bodies, we have cells that are destined to become cancer because all of us at some point have some cancer. But those unhealthy cells can be brought back to health when you understand how to put the whole picture together. Now, what we're teaching you is that reactive oxygen species are where we get free radicals, and vitamin C can help deal with that, but it needs to be done with the correct combination of supplements, or you will run the risk that has now been published of increased incidence of cancer from abuse of the antioxidants without understanding how important oxidants like ozone water, and not everybody wants to buy an ozone generator and put ozone directly in your rectum, which I'm having a lot of my patients do, because a lot of patients can't afford to go to the doctor and put it in the vein, and it gets a similar benefit by self-administering it and just putting a tube in the rectum and buy your own generator for $2,000. Anyhow, that's all covered in oxygenhealingtherapies.com. But look at this chart. If I have you get this little strip and you wet it, and we sell it for 20 cents a strip for a bottle is $10, 50 tests. If you test here, you're going to have a dark future. If you test here, you're going to have a very bright future. What's the difference? This is somebody who's taking my oral vitamin C and is absorbing it and is protected 24/7 with as little as 1 teaspoon twice a day. That's 4,000 milligrams, and it's not just vitamin C. It's got in it MSM, trimethylglycine, ribose, and essential sugars from aloe vera. So we've learned how to make vitamin C work almost as good as putting it in your vein. I don't ever feel that it'll do everything in vein. When I have somebody that's going to die, put it in the vein, because that's 100% absorbed. If you can afford it, do it once in a while because it's good for you, because vitamin C, along with the special water that I mentioned, the ASEA water that works like ozone, can work magic in your body. But this is a dark future. If you get that strip and you test anybody at your home, anybody you love, and he pees out like that, he is never going to reach his maximum useful lifespan. Now, he might live to 90, but he'll be in the old folks' home. Like that, really clear. You can't live on a poisoned, toxic planet with lead and mercury and dioxin and PCB without excreting. You've got to have your urine carrying a lot of vitamin C. So if there's a lot of C in the urine, out comes the bad guys with it. So I protect you. And by doing what I teach you, taking that much vitamin C and then learning how to never go a day without swishing the advanced silver called ACS 200 through your teeth for 3 minutes before you go to bed, then I can prevent the infection that's in people's mouths. That's proven. The dental infection helps kill you from heart disease. So it goes from your gums directly into your bloodstream, and it gives you a blood clot. But of course, my very, very good clients always know that they simply take my BCI, binding cellular impurities, and it eliminates the need for Plavix. And never waste your time with aspirin. It's far too weak, does too much damage, and doesn't give any reasonable benefit. I give you a real product that really gives you 100% benefit, because I know what people die of. It's got nothing to do with cholesterol, it's clots. And clots are due to infection, and now you're starting to get that picture. So this is the silver that if you don't keep this in your house, you're foolish. because you're going to one day have a sick kid and you'll be so worried and you go to the emergency room and be with everybody else that's sick. And provably, a 2-ounce bottle snuck into anybody's hospital room tonight, and they've told you your loved one's going to be dead in the morning. Just have them drink half the bottle, and then 2 hours later take the other half the bottle. That's a full ounce. Now that comes in 4-ounce bottles. Now everybody can't afford it because 4 ounces retails $49, so you can't take that every day. But I have people that take 1 ounce a day because they save a leg that's going to be amputated, so they don't mind spending $25 a day. But we're going to get these prices down because we're teaching people about membership in some of the new entities that we're designing to help people get more of a club feature to try to make things affordable. But if you get all these colds that settle in the throat, you want the nasal one, you can stick this in the nose and squeeze the bottle. And if you have things that don't heal and never heal on your feet or anywhere else, put the gel. But this is the answer. This actually works and helps actually support electrical communication, because remember, everything I'm into is energy. So if I tell you about energy, the cell is this, and the cell outlives the parts like the lysosome, peroxisome, Golgi apparatus, mitochondria. It outlives the pieces, but you have to have somebody come in and clean house. So the magnet, why did I put a mouse there? Because the mouse tells you that a magnet can induce exercise at the cellular level. So even if your loved one's in the hospital unconscious, get in touch with us. We save dogs who are on the 1 hour from death. They get, because we know how to put a magnet and recharge the membrane so the magnesium will go through that membrane. See, the membrane is like a battery and it has to be charged. And without what I'm teaching you, how come it loses its charge? Because every cell in your body is loaded with bad stuff. And when it's loaded with bad stuff, it's kind of like an orange flame under a pilot light. It's just not burning hot and clean like blue. When I give you my treatment, everything in your cells starts to burn with full energy. Now, here it's in numbers. Unhealthy cells have low charge on the membrane, and it can't let the good stuff in and the bad stuff to get out. Healthy cells have the good stuff going in, and that gives us energy for the bad stuff. So look at, if you understand my program, you have to be on the zeolite to help you tie up the lead and mercury that's in your blood at all times, but I have to get the lead and mercury out of your cells, which is why taking 30 intravenous chelation, which we did for the trial to assess chelation, is the tip of the iceberg. It's only if you chelate orally every day the rest of your life that I can keep you from one day going right back to being as sick as you were before you spent $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 taking 30, 40, 50 IV chelation. I love IV chelation. But if you own a Ferrari, you don't just wash the car. You get it also cymonized, waxed. You do deep cleanse. The IV is that, so if you can afford both, you take my oral BCI twice a day, every day, the rest of your life, a little packet of 9 pills, and you don't die. But if you want to be really clean, once a month, take the IV and get an IV magnesium. But here's the point. Only by having the magnet can I charge your cell so it'll throw out the poison. And you have to have my zeolite and my fiber and my green and my maca, that's called my power drink, to catch all the poison. So we know what we're doing. And this is what happens when we activate with the magnet your body. Red cells don't stick together. Now white cells start come to life. They start moving. And so we put the magnet on various parts of your body. You sit on it, put it around your neck, and everywhere I put it comes back to life. And then all of a sudden the blood, when we check it again, the white cells are moving, looking for enemies, cancer cells to eat, and the red cells are all carrying oxygen. So we change your life. And that means the membrane of every cell in your body is about like saran wrap. But for a moment, every time you're on our PMF, and we have a baby PMF now for $1,300 called SomaPulse. And we have the one that all the top soccer players and the top athletes called MAS, $5,800. And we even have that on a restocking basis. You can have it for a month and decide to pay a rental. So there's all kinds of ways to help people, but you need to understand that nothing is working unless I get it all in your mind. I have to get the toxin out. That's autophagy, self-cleaning, and that's what I do with all my tricks. And the autophagy is the way I treat cancer, it's the way I treat heart disease, because I've got to get the unhealthy parts of your heart back to functioning. And I just told you, We've proven with Frustacea in Italy that your heart has as much as 30,000 times higher level of mercury because of complex things. And if you talk to doctors and they've never heard that, fire them and walk away, because they're just going to give you drugs, and drugs all have side effects. And the more drugs you take, the sooner you die. So it's not a good deal. So understand, Martin Milner published in Townsend Newsletter that he took a lady that had tried the stent, failed it, tried the bypass, it didn't work. They told her, oh, we're so sorry, nothing's going to work. You need to have a heart transplant. Do you have an extra 100 or 200,000? She didn't have insurance. So she went to this cardiologist in Portland at the Naturopathic College, and he wound up proving that she came to him in a wheelchair, bought her own machine for $24,000, and less than 3 months later was riding her bicycle around Portland, Oregon. So PMF lowers inflammation. We know how it increases circulation. We know it works through the increasing nitric oxide. We know that it will absolutely make the heart cells function more effectively. And we do know that the heart, that's why they're telling the athletes, and they eat a lot of beets, and they're trying to have people test their nitric oxide, because it's a key step to dilating blood vessels so you get more circulation. But that trick doesn't work if you don't get the lead out, because nitric oxide is supposed to be made in your body from the food that we eat, like arginine, amino acid, citrulline. But if you don't get the lead out, you don't have the nitric oxide synthase enzyme activity to convert even healthy foods like beets into nitric oxide that makes your brain open. So I open your brain by putting a little laser in your nose like I'm doing here. This provably lowers your blood pressure, stabilizes blood sugar for diabetics, and helps bring memory back and help reduce shaking and Parkinson's. So this is a money-back guarantee. So you cough up, you go to the website for the V-Lite, and it says if you have a password, and you put in capital letters my name, Dr. Gordon, and it'll allow you to, instead of paying $4.99, you get it for $4.50. But he will also give you a 60-day period that you can get 80% of your money back if you think it didn't help. You have to sign a piece of paper saying you did it, put it in your nose while you're driving the car. At least once a day you wore it for 25, because I need this energy to get to all the blood vessels in our nose. So light in the nose is treating your diabetes, bringing your memory back. But look how many blood vessels in your nose. So they used to put this light into the person's vein, and they found out, wait a minute, waste of time. Let's just stick the nose, just like I have it in my nose. And you look what, the feet got warm and the hands get warm, because this is helping you have a charge on your red blood cells so they carry oxygen. And so detoxification is the challenge of a lifetime for all of us. And this is my total detox, but people can't afford it. So just take one thing, take what you believe in. But fiber can only do certain things. Zeolite does a lot more. Zeolite does take the lead and mercury out of your body, whereas the drug DMSA and DMPS actually help mobilize the mercury that's in the tissues of your body, but they can carry it sometimes no further than to your liver that dumps it in your gut, and it goes 2 feet, and the mercury that was in your right eye goes back to your left eye unless you are on my zeolite and my vitamin C and my maca and my green drink. And that's what I like people to understand. And I want you to know that I'll continue doing these webinars so that we get you to understand that nobody ever has to have dementia. There's no need for Parkinson's. Nobody needs to die of cancer. And there is a way that we can live on a toxic planet and be very healthy and sharp. In the conference I did on Sunday will be up on my website within a couple of days, all 5. It was about 3 hours of me talking. But I hope you learn how to use my website, because you click on energy medicine, and when you do, it says low-level laser. Click on that, and it says, oh, how about the laser in your nose? You click on that, and it shows you the proven studies at places like Harvard, in the leading research center in Russia, in the leading research in China. You can change your life. But when you get confused, I now have, in the Phoenix area, I have patient advocates, RNs who have chosen to help translate what I say to you, because then when I do a consultation, I charge $4.50 because I have to move slow because people don't understand it. We record it. If you pay them, and they're not expensive, as patient advocates, they will retranslate, and I can talk much faster and only charge $150 if you have a health professional. I don't care if a chiropractor, if you have a health professional that you trust that can help interpret all the exciting things that I'm trying to teach you. And at this point, we get to turn it over to David, who's going to see a couple of questions that we didn't get answered after the last webinar. So we're going to pick up where we left off and see if we can give in every one of these that we're going to do in the future, if you're still on at the end. I don't care if the question's on autism or on sex. I don't care what it is. Every question is fair game.
Yes, Dr. Gordon, we've got quite a few questions tonight, so if we can keep the answers brief, we'll get to as many as we possibly can. I'm going to combine a couple on zeolite. The question was, does zeolite hold on to the toxic minerals like mercury long enough to get out of the body? And the second part to that question is, does it have to be taken at a different time than other mineral supplements like magnesium, like potassium, like zinc?
Great questions. First of all, please understand, there are only 2 zeolites that are legal in the 40 countries that I work in. One is from Wyora, a multi-level company, and they at least are legal in 40 countries. They're badly overpriced, and they have nowhere near the strength that we do. We have generally recognized as safe status in 40 countries. Therefore, there isn't another zeolite out there that you can buy that really has what I need on it if it's for you or your baby. If it's for your pet, I have it very cheap, and we're happy to sell you zeolite, which we are proud of, but it is not for human use, not for 40 countries. So the zeolite, not all are created alike. Please understand, the one that we use was co-developed with top researchers for space travel, because when you go to Mars, you're going to have no water on the spaceship, so you have to live on the water that your body puts out as perspiration, as sweat, and urine. So they wanted the ultimate zeolite ever known in the world, and that's what we sell under the name ZeoGold Enhanced. Now, it absolutely does take the stuff out. It's unique in that it doesn't soak up the essential potassium and magnesium. Those are bigger, and it doesn't fit. See, zeolite is a rock given to us by our Creator. There's no question. It only happens when a volcano goes off, but if the volcano throws lava up in the wrong area that's full of bad pollution, you can't use that zeolite unless you spend a ton of money trying to clean it up. But it has little cages that are the exact size of mercury atom and lead atom, and so it carries it out of your body. That's point one. Point two, zeolite, because it is so unique, is safe to take with everything else because it's only sized to get the bad guys. And so it would be nice technically if you become an expert. You might always take your zinc away from the copper and even calcium away from magnesium, but we're all busy and the body sorts it out. So please, if you try to make it too complicated, you won't get anything done. And the answer is, I take it daily, and I'm doing pretty good for 79. Thank you for the question.
Next question is a quick one. The fish oil in BCI, is it mercury-free?
Thank you for the question. There's so much bad information going around today. Obviously, since I owned the largest laboratory in the world called Mineral Lab, I sold it to Doctors Data. I had offices in Europe and Asia. I'm an authority on trace mineral. I'm not going to let anything get sold to you that's going to aggravate the problem. But please try to understand. People are getting very confused. You're going to get some lead in your body anytime you shower. Anytime you bathe. Does that mean I don't want you to shower bathe? No. Does that mean I want you to buy a whole house system like I have? Not everybody's going to be able to afford what I do. But the point is this. You don't run away from things because there might be a little lead. Obviously, we took all the bad stuff off. That's step number one. And I'm very proud of my track record in only dealing with the best possible plant-based oil, which is the Primrose. So there are 2 oil caps in nobody's ever done what I've done before. I have the fish oil and the plant-based oil, so the people who are now attacking fish oil are completely out of contact with reality. The experts will absolutely tell them that you cannot solve the problem with krill, and you can't solve the thing with plant-based oil. You will never deal with high-risk people like my brother and my father in the serious gene defect I have. Don't tell me. I have nobody, after 20 years, ever call our office and say, My dad was on Dr. Gordon's 9 pills twice a day, and he died yesterday morning taking Dr. We've never had that phone call. So don't ask me to believe that when Johnny come lately say, oh, fish oil is too dangerous. Please understand, I'm an expert at blood clotting, and fish oil we need. Next question.
The oral chelator that you use, EDTA, how many hours after you take EDTA do you have to wait to take other mineral supplements?
Again, calcium EDTA has a spectrum of activity that it usually loves lead so much that actually when I inject it in your arm, if I inject chelation in your arm and I give it to you sodium EDTA, it goes for less than 1/10 of a second and it's already become calcium EDTA. In other words, EDTA knows what it wants to do and it wants to get the bad guys. Now, assume that you had no bad guys, then yeah, technically you could become zinc deficient. Amazingly enough, you cannot live today without bad guys. I can make it very clear. Claire Patterson is one of the top researchers at Caltech. He's published all the papers proving to you when we poisoned the earth. We did it when the industrial age started 700 years ago. How can we prove it? Well, let's take the bones of every child on earth, and when a child dies, let's just see how much lead is in the bone. Today it's 1,000 to 2,000 times more lead than any bones found on earth just 700 years ago. So everybody has lead poisoning. So please understand, I take my 9-pill chelation together because there is synergy. There's good things. So there's always, you can always see the bad thing. It's like the old game, is the cup half full or half empty. You can sit there and say, oh, I better not take that EDTA because, I want the lead out, but I do know that it loves zinc, so I'll probably become zinc depleted. Well, Dr. Gordon thought of all that. But in the exciting thing I'm announcing, coming in about 1 month, the new upgraded form of binding cellular impurities, BCI, is even going to have more additional breakthroughs, so it'll all be capsules. You won't have to deal with tablets, so it's easier for people to swallow. But the good news is this. Please understand. I have gone through the whole process of trying to say, if I took the calcium at 3 o'clock in the morning, would that be better to take the magnesium than at 6 in the morning? Please, your body is amazing, and all you have to do is just be lucky enough to know the right product that's got 10 million. I just showed you the 3 textbooks you can buy online. So let's go on to the next question.
Is serrapeptase also a natural blood thinner?
I love serrapeptidase, and I love nattokinase, and I love the lumbrokinase, which we call boluoki, and all of them have benefits. I don't use the serrapeptase as much because a friend of mine thought it was the total answer to everything, and he put his life on the line and he died with the product, so I didn't stay with it very much. I used nattokinase, but then they bastardized it and they had lots of cheap stuff that was nattokinase that wasn't doing much for you. So at the current time, it's more expensive, but I have really important patients, and I have patients who had a blood clot by age 30, and everybody in their family is dead by 40, so I can't fiddle. So lumbrokinase, which is the Chinese earthworm, it takes a ton of earthworm to get 1 kilogram of this material. So it's instead of, right now, let's say that taking chelation packets, the BCI, twice a day, let's say that by the time you get it, it's $130 a month. I don't want people to have to spend $260, so I don't tell people to take boluoki unless there's a history in the family that tells me these people have hypercoagulated blood. But across the board, when I do use it, I want the one that I know is the strongest, and then I use it with a dose, like it says on the bottle, 2-3 times a day, before meals, empty stomach for 3 weeks. Then I take 1 twice a day, and I take everybody off Coumadin. But when I take you off Coumadin to protect myself, I have you on BCI twice a day and boluoki, otherwise known as lumbrokinase, twice a day. Thank you for the question.
The next question, Dr. Gordon, is on pulsed electromagnetic field therapy. You had talked about the SomaPulse unit, so this question is 2 parts. Would SomaPulse be useful for a traumatic brain injury, and is SomaPulse good for insomnia?
Wonderful question. Thank you for starting to read up on SomaPulse. SomaPulse came about because NASA spends so much money with Skylab in the sky, and they were amazed every time the lab in the space went through the magnetic field, it they saw a tremendous increase of activity of stem cells, and they researched, and they finally said, look, there's something here. And they hired Dr. Dennis, a cellular biologist at a university, and said, let's see if we can duplicate it on Earth. And it took him several years, and he didn't think it was going to work. And lo and behold, they wound up actually getting a patent that provably increases stem cell production by 400%. Do you want new stem cells in your brain? Yes. Depression is actually thought by many of us to be a deficiency of new stem cells. There is nobody that I would hesitate to use a SomaPulse on any part of your body, and I have to try to clarify it. If doctors are spending $24,000 to get 19,000 units of strength, and you're only getting 100 or 200 units of strength when you do an MAS pad for $5,800, which is convenient because it can treat for half an hour and it's got tremendous flexibilities in frequencies that it can generate that go beyond what Rife generators have done. So I love the MAS, but that's at 100 and 200, so that's not going to be, if you've just torn your shoulder and they're going to insist on operation, I don't want anybody touching me, because their operations don't work and the complications are huge. So I have to regenerate your body. So I need the heavy toy. But if I'm just trying to have somebody recover from an injury, we have proven with very sophisticated mapping, digital mapping of your brain, we can now do that. We can take really disturbed signals like an EEG and see dramatic reversal and recovery and regeneration. So let's start at the top of the page. SomaPulse patent issued, and NASA paid for it, so it's got patent and 400% increase in stem cells. So is there any part of your body that you don't need to be younger? Well, some people, their whole problem is their bladder, so they're going to treat the bladder. And the other one, this guy is going to have to give up his sport because he can't play golf anymore because of his knee. So he can sleep at night and put an ace band. So there's all kinds of ways, but I envision everybody buying a really good baseball cap and really learning what I've said today, because it was a lot, but I said I've done 3 hours on Sunday, and it's all slower. The more you get repetition, I can change your life. Because believe me, I know the top stem cell people, but now we're talking about making your own stem cells at a fraction of the, so everything's going to happen. Exciting, it's all happening very fast. But bottom line, you need to know that absolutely, if you took and put the V-Light in your nose, and remember, it's money back, 80%. They get 80% of your money back if after 2 months you say it didn't help. The only thing is it's so easy. Who the heck's going to bother to stick it in their nose? The only way I can eat, because it's so obvious, it's right, you know, when the old saying is, if it's right beneath your nose, many of us aren't going to do it. So I have people carry it in their car, and if they're driving, wherever they drive, they put it in their nose because it's not going to interfere with your drive. But I need to have people, you can be doing anything, watching television, but we did a whole special on the V-Light on my website. When you go to GordonResearch.com, click on the word media/webinars, watch the one on V-Light, and hear those stories of Parkinson patients stopping shaking, patients ready to go to the old folks home, suddenly starting to drive the car. It's pretty exciting, and combine. That's the fun about energy. But energy will raise the cell power so much so that the cell will throw out poison. So please, if you use my toys, which the toys I'm talking about are the magnet and the laser and microcurrents, if you're using these things, learn that you need to catch the toxins in the cell. Every cell in your body is filled with dirt. I can measure it, provably. Mercury in every cell in your body. How much? Well, I just told you the bones are 1,000 to 2,000 times. Does it adversely affect your body? Harvard published the paper in the Journal of the AMA telling you the level of lead in your bone determines how soon you go blind and how soon you die of a heart attack. And the chelation doctors don't even tell you that, which is such a shame. I've got to get them to change their attitude, because if they admit to you that intravenous will not get out of your bone, then they have to admit that you're going to be on oral chelation for 15 years minimum, because it takes 15 years for the old bone to be replaced by new bone. And when the old bone is being replaced, it is poisoning you, just the same as if you drank out of a lead cup. So you've got to understand, I know my business, and if you don't do what I'm telling you, you will not reach that age 100 and be the wise old person in the community, because you won't have the memory. So I've got to train people that I came up with the FIGHT acronym, F-I-G-H-T. The F is food and focus, I infection, G genetics, H heavy metals, and hormones and toxins. And anybody who makes an appointment with me is going to learn how much DHEA you should be on, why I want you on melatonin, why you never have to lose your vision, macular degeneration or glaucoma. You never have to lose the right to drive the car, and you don't have to wind up on renal dialysis even if you're diabetic. Those are the answers. And guess where that paper was published? New England Journal of Medicine. And what did they use? Calcium EDTA once a month intravenously. Do you think any doctor is telling you how never to wind up on dialysis? And it's that simple. Diabetics lose their toes, their kidneys, and their eyes. And calcium EDTA means you don't wind up on anyhow, I hope I make the point. We're on an exciting time. Next question.
It's a two-part. The first part is, what is maca? How is it used? And with your products, maca, Bioenergy C, and Zeolite, can children use those products as well, and how early in age?
Thank you for a great question. The slide that showed you the power drink had my green, my Beyond Fiber, my maca, my vitamin C, and my Zeolite. That is intended for use at age 1 hour. If the baby is 1 hour old, get my Zeolite spray. The spray is designed for parakeets and babies. And 1 capsule of Zeogold is the equivalent of an entire bottle of Zeolite spray. But the ACZ spray absolutely does miracles in helping. So even if it's gentle, but I happen to be so focused on the toxins that I wound up making something 100 times stronger, which is the Zeogold. Both of them work. So the thing is, yes, the greens are obviously going to be broccoli and all the spirulina and all the healthy greens, because greens will tie up mercury. And every time you eat a fish, and don't stop eating fish, we need protein. But you need to tie up, and as long as you're doing some of my Zeogold and some of my stuff. But if you look at maca, maca is kind of an amazing story. It grows in Peru at 12,000 foot elevation, and it grows into the ground kind of like a potato. When they sell it to us, we get the best quality we can. It is proven to act as a detoxifier, like eating broccoli. And broccoli and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts are at the top of the list. Everybody has to eat one of those foods, but if you won't, fine, do the maca. But maca, not everybody loves the taste. But I can tell you this, it increases sexual activity of rodents by a factor of 500%. It increases energy in anybody. It helps take lead out. And the more you read about it, it normalizes hormone function. And if you are a woman who never wants to go through menopause and just wants to be sexy and healthy at 70 and 80, enjoying sex without a dry vagina, without dementia, without insomnia, without a stooped over back, you will be on my HRT, the topical progesterone that we carry, which is called Emerita, otherwise known as Progest, and you will be on maca. They all do something different. Really funny. The herbal remedy from Thailand is northern Thailand, and it grows, again, below the ground. And it is a miracle that I, as a man, take, because we've proven there is no cases of dementia or broken bones in people that take the herbal remedy from Thailand. But it doesn't alone restore sex drive in women, because they got to normalize FSH and LH and other changes that go on in the postmenopause. But if I catch you before menopause, and I have you taking my HRT on 3 weeks and off the week of the period, and I get you started early on using topical progesterone on your skin, just use a different part of the body all the time, and use it roughly half a teaspoon to a teaspoon, and I get you on the maca and the HRT, you will never have any of the sandpaper vagina that prevents intercourse. You'll have none of the depression, none of the insomnia, and none of the memory loss. And how can I say that? Well, in Bangkok, Thailand, the king has his favorite university, like Harvard or Johns Hopkins. It's called Chulalongkorn. They have spent 14 years studying this natural product that only grows in northern Thailand. And so you're going to hear from a lady by the name of Christine Northrup this year, who will do a show special, a television special, and have a new book explaining to you how she sees a 75-year-old woman's vagina area, the genital tract, become as much as 20 years younger using this topically on the lips of the vagina. We call that Tigris. And of course we use it on the face, and we call that C Perfection, because we added vitamin C to the Pueraria verifica, the active factors known as purestrol, and we're the experts at developing this product So it's a big, exciting thing. And the maca story, funny that it would be another gourd living below the ground in another part of the world and doing something quite different than maca. But maca actually, with all the apathy, sexual apathy in our country today, is essential for couples to stay together. We have to be sexually active or we will not reach our maximum intended useful lifespan. So thank you for a great question.
And Dr. Gordon, this question is on the V-Lite. There's actually 3 different models that are shown on the website. Which one do you recommend, and is the V-Lite useful for depression?
Absolutely. The thing about laser is this: any laser applied to the bottom of a lady's foot in a rest home who hasn't spoken to the staff in the 2 years she's been there, and if we treat her foot for half an hour every day, in less than 2 to 3 weeks, she's talking to the staff, and all we did is treat the foot. Now, then can you do it faster? Would it have been faster if I put it in her nose instead of her foot? Because it's working through electrons. See, the light is photons, and in quantum mechanics, photons become electrons. And when you learn my kind of medicine, vitamin C is an electron donor, and your dog hugging you is an electron donor. So when you get into this kind of medicine, it all has a place. And yes, obviously we want it as quick as possible. So there's the $300 and the $400 and the $500 one, and I've done a webinar. So go to my webinar and click on the word, go to media/web, it's right on my website, and you will be able to pick out right there. You will see that you want to watch the video. So you click on webinar, and they're all listed. So listen to it, and we try to explain to you. But the only story that makes sense is this. The $500 one, we worked with Dr. David Hickey at Harvard. We worked with Dr. Carew in Russia. And we worked with Dr. Lim in China. And these are world authorities. And they will tell you that the pulsing, which is the $500 one, which is why we chose to make it have the money back, because when it's pulsing, it's more powerful. But if you have myasthenia gravis or multiple sclerosis, technically, the more you study it, we have somebody who saw tremendous. They were going to put the dad in the old folks home in less than a month using the laser in the nose. He's driving the car. But now they're starting to think, well, gee, I don't need it, because supplements cost money. Maybe I can just stick a different color in the other side of the nose and treat 2 different parts. And yes, frequencies are valuable. I don't have enough good answers right now. We're still learning to say, yeah, for some people, the $300 might be much better if your problem is ADHD. We're still learning. All we know is that the $500 one is pulsing, the others are steady, and all of them offer significant benefits to our health. And the bottom line is everybody one day is going to own a laser, period. You're going to have to, because we're taking in the direction of self-care. And to have self-care, I have to have you have toys. And I may have to one day have everybody own an ozone generator, so you don't have to go and buy the ozonated water that we call ASEA. I mean, you have to, there's only so much time in your day. But the thing is, the more you learn, the more reliant you are. Thank you for a great question. There is not a single easy answer. I'm inclined to tell people, well, buy the $300 one. But since the pulsing has, put it this way, if all you have is a bad tooth and the kid is screaming, go to the store, go to the Office Max and buy a laser pointer. Buy the most expensive one, 30, 40, 50 bucks. Take that laser pointer and open his mouth, have him point that, just like instead of pointing in the wall at the lecture room, point it on his bad tooth. And he's going to get some energy to that bad tooth. We call it the Aura laser when we sell it for $3,000 in Germany, and it's approved so you don't have to pull the tooth and you don't have to see the dentist. But in order to make it even more powerful, go online and find a company that sells magnets. Find one that's a neodymium, pay about $100. It looks like about a thick quarter. Hold that over your sore tooth and have that held in one hand on the outside of your skin over the sore tooth. Open your mouth and put the laser on the bad tooth. Now you have what? A pulsed magnet, and because you can take that magnet and go north, south, so 1 minute is from one side, the other, so you're pulsing it, and then you put the laser on, and within 5 minutes the kid stops crying, you don't spend $5,000 with the dentist, and you save a tooth. So it's good tricks. Thank you for your question.
Another question on pulsed electromagnetic field therapy. Is that also good for children?
Absolutely. It's so pathetic that the Earth magnetic field, according to NASA, at the time of the dinosaur was between 20 and 30. Today you're lucky if where you live is giving you 0.5. Now who cares? Well, when it goes to 0, you care because you're dead. Mars is a dead planet. It has no magnetic field. Now, are we all going to die? Not in this lifetime. We're going through Earth changes, and if you are a astrophysicist or a geophysicist, you study these things and you understand that about every 250,000 years, North Pole usually became South Pole because the Earth is adjusting, because the magnet field of the Earth comes from the molten iron in the center of the Earth, and it's sloshing around and it's generating the magnetic field. And it does change, and the North Pole's already moved so much that we've had to renumber the runways because North Pole is not where it used to be. So the thing is, since we've lost the magnetic field, there isn't a person, if your kid wants to beat everybody in the Olympics, he needs some magnet. All the top soccer players, you can't hope to operate optimally because you've been cheated. There'll be no big dinosaurs coming back to this planet because without a 20 Gauss field, they couldn't support something the size of a whale running over the surface of the Earth. We need the charging of the cells in our body. But we can cheat and learn how to use a $1,300 mass, a $1,300 Somapulse, a $5,800 MAS, and to find a doctor who's got a $24,000, so we can go once in a while to the big machine. Like if your battery's dead, you're not going to waste your time with a trickle charger. But once you got to start again, if you know that your generator's not working, you buy a trickle charger. So I hope I make it clear. We need all the help we can get, but these answers are there. And so when some doctor tells you there's nothing else can be done, please know that we're here to do consultations. I go to every meeting on every subject. I've spent millions studying in every country. I know every clinic. You can talk to me about what we do with hyperthermia in Germany or what I do with hyperbaric oxygen. There isn't anything, because in order to rebuild my body, I've had to study everything. I wasn't given a healthy body, but I'm beginning to be pretty optimistic about my future.
Dr. Gordon, you mentioned both the cocoon water and the ASEA water. Are either one of those the same as ozonated water?
They're all in the same category. Our problem is this. We're all going to have to learn. The book is called Redox Life by A. Naidoo, N-A-I-D-U. If you spend $150, you'll start to be able to understand when you want a reductant and when you want an oxidant. And ozone and cocoon water and ASEA are all oxidants. My problem is that I have a lot of training to do with doctors because we only have probably 200 or 300 doctors who now belong to the American Association for Ozone Therapy, AAOT.com. One of those doctors alone is a professor at a veterinary school in Boston, and she has been absolutely banned from the premises of the university because she saved over 8,000 animals that the other vets said, put the animal down, there's nothing can be done. 8,000 success, and they can't stand it because it makes them all look so incompetent. So she's banned. She cannot talk to her students. She can't even go in, if they're using hotels, she can't go. She's sued, and we can't. They are so panicked that what we're telling you is going to become known, and they won't be able to sell their stupid stuff. And because the vets are in lockstep with the MDs, they're selling you the stupid drugs, and they're selling you surgery. So it's so sad that we have answers that are available, and we need to learn how to combine these things. There isn't a family that's not going to have some kind of a device for your pets. I mean, if you just give the inexpensive zeolite we sell, I think it's the cheapest thing is about $10 a bag. If you have that and you give a quarter teaspoon to your pet every day, according to the research in Croatia, you will reduce by 95% the chance of your dog dying of cancer. But that still doesn't do all the tricks, does it? So we're going to put a little pad together, a mini MAS pad, that when the pet lays on it, it'll turn on, because we're trying to give all the answers for our pets and our loved ones so that we can see how the combination of putting together an understanding how with the Earth's magnetic field dropping to what it has, we have to recharge, and obviously we're we're not claiming that a SomaPulse is going to do what a $24,000 magnet will, but it's amazing what it is doing, and you go online and you'll see that it's almost caused a regeneration of a finger. So if we combine the things we're talking about here, like using at the same time the laser in the nose and the magnet, who knows what's going to happen.
And Dr. Gordon, this is probably the perfect question to wrap up. You've covered a tremendous amount of information about a lot of products. Is there a catalog, or where is the best place to get information, detailed information about all the different products you talked about today?
Well, because the FDA and FTC has to protect you so that we don't mislead you, the company that sells the product called Longevity Plus, which I do not own and I have no ownership in, is not allowed to tell you anything that I've told you tonight. So when you go to longevityplus.com, you can see the ad for the vitamin C and the ad for the HRT and the ad for the BCI, but it doesn't tell you anything about it. Fortunately enough, we have come up with a wonderful idea that we're going to have you joining a private membership association, a PMA, and those of you will be told from the website how to join, and then you no longer are the general public. And the FDA and FTC, their only concern is to protect the general public. Once you're no longer the public, like it's obvious, once you become my patient, they are not allowed to interfere with what I tell you. It's just that they will not allow me to put anything on. I'm a licensed MD in California, licensed osteopath in Nevada, licensed homeopathic MD in Arizona, and if I put on my website that I offer you ozone therapy or intravenous hydrogen peroxide, they will come in with guns drawn, and they'll put my staff and my patients on the floor with guns aimed at your head. So that's even though I've been on the board of medical examiners for homeopathic medicine for 9 years in this state, and our board officially endorses these therapies. The federal government is kind of like the marijuana thing, that you can legally have marijuana in Arizona, but the federal government is now, for the moment, turning their head the other way and not arresting everybody. But this is a sad thing. So to learn, spend time. I have 30 webinars on cancer, heart disease. There's a topic I haven't done, and I'll be doing more each week. So spend time on my website. Since I do not sell any of these things, you don't have to be concerned about what I tell you. But we want you to have more and more freedom, and we want it soon, because the FDA says that if I put on my website anywhere the name Longevity Plus so that you can find a company that sells the products I talk about, they again will close the website down. So nowhere on the website does it tell you how to find the product. Thank you for a great question. Hope you can spell longevityplus.com.
Okay, well, Dr. Gordon, that was it for the questions for tonight. So thank you for tonight's presentation, and thank all of you for listening. The presentation will be available for review at www.gordonresearch.com. Should be on the website within the next week and a half or so. So officially the webinar is now complete. Don't miss next Tuesday's webinar, and it's called Brain Health at Any Age. Be beginning at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time next Tuesday, February 25th. And if you want more information on that, again, you can go to gordonresearch.com. And for those of you in Arizona, on Sunday, March 30th, from noon until 5 p.m. at the Orange Tree Resort in Scottsdale, Dr. Gordon will be doing part 2 of his Rejuvenation, Regeneration, and Heal lecture. And again, there's more information on the GordonResearch.com website. Thank you. Have a healthy evening, and we'll look forward to seeing you all next week.